Hey guys, okay, I'm going to do my best to teach you about pleats. So open up the work file. I'm actually going to go over to CLO right now. Your file should look like this. So we're going to start with the fabrics on the top of the screen. Probably a couple things to talk about are some new tools you might not be familiar with, but ask yourself, why are these pattern pieces blue and not white? Okay, let's see, it's Command Z. So right now would be a good time to let you know that you can freeze pattern pieces. So if I hit simulate, anything that's frozen is not going to be affected by gravity. So these pieces are staying in midair. This piece is white, so he's not frozen, but you might want to inspect it and you'll notice that it's been folded. There's been some pleats put in it, okay? So we are going to unfreeze this piece over here and we're gonna fold it and sew it to this bar up here. So for some reason, this took me a really long time to understand. Some of my students picked it up super fast, but if you're like me, it's a little confusing. So I'm gonna do my best to really break it down and explain things to you guys. So we wanna inspect this guy. This is an open little corner here. I'm gonna kind of rotate underneath it. Here we have a fold, and then we go back and there's another fold. Okay, so I think what I want to do right now is switch over to a file I drew, a little illustration. So this is what's happening right now, is that we have one fold here, another fold in the back, and then it's just all straight. So to really master pleats, you want to be able to understand how it's folded. So I would say this first fold here, which I illustrated over here as, I guess, like a black line. Well, the green line underneath it, it's flat. There's no fold. But there's like a black line that's dashed that is folded, and that's folded with the wrong sides together, okay? And then the fold over here is folded with right sides together. So in CLO, you can select an internal line and you can fold it. So by default, all internal lines are gonna lay flat, like this green one. And so to lay flat, what they do, they just type in 180 degrees, just flat, straight line. So anytime you make an internal line, it's gonna default to 180 degrees. But if you want it to fold more dramatically, you can either type in 0 degrees or 360 degrees. Okay, so if you type in 0 degrees, that's like bringing the wrong sides of your fabrics together. But if you type in 360, it's like bringing the right sides together. Okay, so if you want this pleat here, this is a knife pleat. It has 2 folds. It has wrong sides and then right sides. How you're going to drop your pattern is you need just a rectangle. You'll put an internal line right here. And this is your first fold, which is wrong sides together. So you're going to go to your property editor and you're going to change your like fold line from 180 degrees, which is what it defaults, and you're going to change it to 0. Then you're going to have another internal line, and you'll change that to be 360. And then we have another internal line, I think because it helps us with sewing later. It's just kind of where it falls. I think it's really just there as a notch to sew it to the seam later. But that one should just be 180, no big deal. So that's what your pattern piece should look like, okay? So it's gonna be the first line 0 and 360. Okay, so let's go to CLO. Let's see if we can handle this. Why don't we just inspect it and see if that is what's going on this sample that's correct already. Okay, so another thing that's kind of handy is that CLO did color our internal lines for us. So this dark red is just a basic 180 internal line, but the bright red is when it's 0 degrees, okay? So bright red is basically the same as wrong sides together. Blue is the same as right sides together, also known as 360 degrees fold angle. Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. Here I go. I'm gonna pan over. Edit undo. Okay. Okay, so you can see right now my segments are all just that dark red. So that means they're all just 180 degrees flat. No big deal. So I'm going to click it right now. And, I'm in the property editor. It's kind of toward the top. It's like right under the name. So that's helpful. So fold, I guess it defaults to 5 for the strength, but the angle defaults to 180. And we want to change this to 360 degrees so that it is right. Oh, is that what we wanted? See how quickly I forget? Let me double check. We want this first one. Sorry, we want 0 degrees because we want wrong sides together. This is why I'm not good at this. I don't know. Okay. Not that. There we go. Cool. This one we're going to change to, it's going to be this one right here. So wait, did I see? I'm already confused. So 0 degrees, yeah, then this next one is going to be 360 degrees. Oh boy. Okay, so it defaulted 180. We're changing it to 360. Cool. So now we have a bright red line and a blue one. We'll leave this flat. That's fine. I want to bring one other thing to your attention. On this file, this button is checked, the fold rendering. This is not normally checked. It's just kind of here for your reference. So what it does, it just makes it so much sharper when you look at it. So I kind of want to leave one off just to see the difference. You guys can kind of see the difference of it. You'll want to make sure that's checked if you do want a sharp fold on the rendered side. Another tip that I was told is that when you are creating these, you should strengthen your fabric, which I guess is like putting starch on it. Have you guys ever used starch spray before you iron stuff? I learned about that like a few years ago. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Just spray your laundry before you iron it, and it comes out so crisp and straight. It's amazing. So, so we should strengthen our pattern piece. Okay, so to do that, you select it and you right-click it, and you just choose strengthen. So if you're ever struggling with the tool, sometimes not a bad idea to just kind of strengthen your fabric. Makes it a little stiffer. So we're going to do that. I also do want to unfreeze it. Okay. So if I were to hit the simulate button right now, it would just fall to the ground. Okay. Okay, so I added my fold lines, but I haven't sewn it together yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and unsimulate for a second. So I'm going to hit the space bar. I'm going to watch it start to fall, but it's also going to kind of fold. And then I'm going to hit the space bar again. So here we go. Space bar and space bar. Do you see that? Look, there's my folds. So exciting. Okay, so now I'm going to manually sew this guy together. So how would this be sewn together? Okay, so I'm going to sew this segment to this guy. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Does that make sense why I'm doing that? Right, so I'm sewing you. Oh, am I in the right one? Let me make sure I'm in the right tool. Yeah. Okay, so I have my sewing. Nope, there we go. I'm going to use segment sewing. Okay, so I'm sewing you to you. It's not really clicking very well on my 3D. There it goes. Did it click? No, because I'm going to go to 2D and click on the 2D. Click. Now notice where my little notches are. So it's going to start in the middle. Does that make sense? How my notches are, my little tabs, my sewing tabs. Okay, so that's going to get sewn together. What else is going to get sewn together is this segment to this guy. Okay, so I'm going to sew, yeah, you to you. And again, I want my notches going the right way. Okay, then I'm going to sew this segment. He's not part of a pleat. He's just laying flat. I'm just going to sew him up here. So I'll say click and click. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and simulate. Spacebar. Ooh, there we go. Okie dokie. So look at that. I have my pleat. I see how it's folded. It's just kind of dangling there. So to finish this off, I'm going to sew basically, let me kind of get the top of that guy. I'm going to unsimulate. I'm going to sew this guy to that. So I guess I will click it one time. I'll click up here one time. And then now I will simulate again. I'm going to hit number 2 and pan over. Maybe you want to click and pull it. I don't know. Maybe your computer is a little faster than mine. There we go. Now remember, see how it's not folded super nice? Let's look at the back side. Hit number 8. So dark. There we go. That other fold is pretty crisp. I'm going to go kind of underneath it. Like that guy is crisp, right? That's because my fold rendering was on. I'm going to hit number 2. Scooch over here. So it's a little clumsy. I know I have also a high particle distance rate. It's kind of like high resolution sort of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this guy and I'm going to go back and check my fold rendering box. And let's see what a difference that makes. Already it's like, whoop, tight. Okay, so I'll hit, oh, it was already on rendered, sorry, simulated. Yeah, okay, that looks good. I'm going to unsimulate. Okay, so do I need to keep this strengthened? No, I guess not. I think I'm just going to right click and say unstrengthen. Cool. So there you go. I did my pleat. Okay, do you think we can do it again down here? So let's inspect this guy. The first one was kind of a knife pleat. This one is basically a box pleat. It has 2 knife pleats happening. So because it's so nice and flat and perfect, it's even kind of like really hard to see. Oopsies. What's going on. So it looks like there's a piece of fabric here. It goes in, right sides together are folded, comes back, wrong sides are folded, goes way across here. We have wrong sides, right sides folded, and yeah, so let's look at that. We have all these lines here. Okay, so here's like the right way. They've already done it. Can we figure out how to do it? I'm gonna go back to my little illustration. Oopsies. Okay, this is what we're trying to do now. So, okay, so basically I'm gonna say copy, I'm gonna paste this. We need an internal line about right here. And this is gonna be folded right sides together. So what would be my fold angle if I'm trying to do right sides together? Did you say 360 degrees? Hopefully. Okay, so yes, you should be 360 degrees. And you know what? Why don't I try to make this a color? Let's see here. I don't need my fill. I'll just make you red. Okay, so that red line is going to match with this red line right there. Okay. So that fold is that fold. Okay, so now we need another internal line cruising down here to this point. So maybe that's about right here. And let's make this line, we'll make it, do like a rainbow, right? We'll do like an orange, a shade of orange. Okay, and then that, I'm gonna make sure you're orange also, because you guys are the same. Okay, so now wrong sides are being folded together. So that should be 0 degrees. Okay, then we basically probably just, oopsies, 0, get out of that. We probably just need an internal line just to show where the folds just kind of overlap or lay flat, I guess. So I will make this guy bright yellow. Maybe I'll kind of do a line. I'm going to mix green and yellow together. It's kind of hard to see. Let's just do, I guess, a darker green. It's not going to be hard to see on the blue. Okay, I'm going to copy it. So now I want to put an internal segment like right here. So what degree is that going to be? So it's going to be flat. We don't want it folded. So that means it'll just default at 180. We won't touch it. We'll leave it at 180. Okay, let's keep that 180. Okay, Now we have another fold happening. So we're gonna need another internal line. Let's go ahead. I don't know why I keep double clicking that. I'll make you a dark blue. And that's gonna be this guy. So when we have our internal line and it's wrong sides together, what is that? 0 degrees? Yes. Okay, and then we come back and we have another fold line right here. I'll make it purple. That's like the same as if it was right here. So this is right sides together. So what would that be? 360 degrees. Okay. Now, do we need an internal line right here to kind of show where it falls? I think so. So another internal, obviously my fabric piece is not very proportional. If we were gonna do this, this needs to be much longer. Okay, come back. So what color should this be? Should I make it like a bright pink? Okay. So just kind of like a placement of like where it falls. Basically falls right there. It's underneath it. That's why I made it short. Like you can't see it because the other fabric's on top. So what degrees would that just internal line be? Well, you're not folding it, so it would just default at 180 degrees. Okay, so in order to do this box pleat for the next one, you want to jot it down. Oopsies. This is how we need to set up our segment lines. Change the fold. The first one has to be 360, then 0, then 180, 0. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and give that a shot. I'm going to go back to Clo. Here we go. And again, 360. That was blue. So look at that. Blue, bright red, regular red. Bright red, blue, regular. So I think we figured it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and try it ourselves. Okay, so we need to change this guy to be 360. My fold rendering is on, so that's good. Then we need the next one to be 0. Also fold rendering on, cool. This one we leave at 180. This one we're also gonna do at 0. And this one we're gonna do at 360. And the final one, we just leave. Great, okay. Now we have to sew them up, but I'm gonna hit number 2. I'm gonna go look at this guy. Okay, I'm gonna select it, I'm gonna unfreeze it. I'm also going to strengthen it, adding my starch. And just for a second, I'm going to simulate. So I'm gonna hit the space bar, click, and click. Okay, cool, I just wanted to see my fold lines. Okay, so it looks like these two need to be sewn together. So I'm gonna get my segment sewing tool. I'm gonna click U and U. And it looks like it sometimes I have trouble on the 3D. Oh, it looks like it worked, so I'm good. You can always go to 2D if you have trouble. Those two need to be sewn together. This guy and this guy need to be sewn together as well. And really where those little notch tabs are, that's extremely important. Oh, I don't think it got it. You know what, I'm having trouble in the 3D, so I'm just gonna go over here to 2D and click. So I know there's 2 stitches on that guy. He's a popular guy. Everybody wants to get sewn to him. Okay, so I think that's good. Okay, so now I need to sew this guy to this guy. Click one time. Yeah. Okay, well, it's right here. So I'm going to click U to U. Sometimes it's just easier on the 3D or the 2D side. Okay, and then I want to sew this little segment to this guy. So that's U. Did I click? No. U to U. Okie dokie. Okay. I guess I should sew you to you because you're just plain, nothing's happening. You're just flat, no big deal. Okay. And then for fun, I think I'm going to simulate and see what happens. Cool. Now I just have to figure out how to sew the rest, right? I hit spacebar, I'm going to hit option. Okay, I guess I'll hit spacebar again and let it finish kind of falling around. Let's see if I did a good job. Is it working? I think it's working. Okay, so I want to sew this thing up there. So what are you? I'm going to click you. Looks like I want to sew this segment, I think right here. So I'm going to hit the sew tool. I'm going to pick you and sew you here. And then I want to sew this guy to this one. Okay, here we go. I'm going to simulate. Did I do it? This is exciting for somebody who Pleats was really hard. So I'm very proud of myself if this actually worked. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop simulating. I'm going to right click. Well, I guess I will select this guy first. Right click, and I'm going to unstraight him. Yeah, I think I did it. Did I mess up? It's not as flat as the other one, is it? The one that's already there. I wonder if I did twist something funny with my sewing. I'm going to give it a good look. Maybe it just needs to like air out a little bit. Yeah, it just needed to simulate. It needs some gravity. Okay, cool. Whew. That was stressful. Okay, cool. So this is a hard way of doing pleats, but it's important to learn so you have a little bit more control. CLO does have a really cool pleat tool to do all this for you. But the way to use that tool, you really want to design your pieces. You don't even want to worry about one being longer than the other, okay? Because let me kind of demonstrate that. Okay, so for this sample, all you have to do is this to turn in. I'm just going to show you this extra part for learning for those of you guys that are curious. So I'm just going to get my rectangle tool and let's see here. I think I will just draw this shape. Okay. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy it. Command C, Command V. Did that work? Oops, maybe I'm on the wrong tool. Let's try that again. Copy and paste, yes. Okay, and then I'm just gonna hit the letter Z and just click and drag so it's a little longer. Okay, so let's say when all is done and said, everything's folded together, this is really what I want my shapes to look like. That's probably the easiest way to design. But then if you're like, well, I also want pleats in it, but once the pleats are folded, I want it to look like this. That's a good time to use their pleat tool that they have. So let me hover over. I want to make sure this is the right one, Pleats. I'm just going to click the top one. They do have other ones, but this is a beginning class, so we're just going to use the top one. And you're going to click on a segment or internal line. So we don't have any internal lines right now, so what happens if I were to click right here? I guess you just kind of have to make your own. And I guess I will shift and click right there. Okay, what side do you want to add the pleats? I guess I want to add them to this side. How many do you want? What kind do you want? I guess I'll stick with knife pleats, and let's add 3. How deep do you want them? Maybe ½ inch. Okay, and the spacing, I'm just gonna say okay. And look at this, it changed my pattern piece, so now my pattern piece is longer. And let's hit the sewing tool. Well, oh, you know what I didn't do? I'm going to redo this. I'm going to hit Command Z. And what you should do first is sew these pieces together. So I'm going to say you are going to get sewn to you. Now I'm going to add my pleats. So let's go back. I'm saying I'm going to want you here to you. I'm going to add it on this side. I'm going to do 3. Maybe I'm going to make them actually 1 inch. I want them bigger. And I'll say, okay. Look how much bigger it made my pattern piece, and it even figured out how to sew together. Look at all those complicated stitches over here on the 3D side. Isn't that nice that we had no part of that? It just did it by itself. I love that. Let's simulate and see if it actually works. Okay. I like how it pleats it first. Ah, it's gonna fall, click. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick you. I'll right click and let's freeze it and simulate again. It's frozen all crooked, which is kind of funny. I kind of like that. There's my pleats. What do you guys think? They're not super sharp. How do we make them sharp? Didn't default that. That's interesting, right? Okay, how do we make them sharp? Okay, so really we only need the bright red. This one, when they made their pleats themselves, they added notches. They didn't add a whole internal line. So that's interesting. But they did need the notch of like where the pleats fall. I think that's kind of interesting. I'm gonna select all these bright blue and bright red lines because I know those are my 360 and 0-degree folds. And I'm gonna go ahead and check that full rendering button. Yeah, oh yeah, much better, right? Already, looks good. Much better. So there is that tool to do it automatically, but I think if you don't understand pleats, you can get really lost and probably frustrated with it. So here you go. Welcome to pleats. I actually think it's the hardest part of CLO, which is a good thing because it's not that hard. But it did throw me through a loop the first couple times I tried to use it. So as always, if you guys have any questions, please reach out and I'm here to help.